distinction between us being our minds and us being, as you say, Thetans.
Okay, so you're a being, you're a Thetan, and you have a mind. The mind in Scientology, well, Dianetics, divides into two. You've got a reactive side and an analytical side. We don't go along with the chemical imbalance. That's not something we look at. But we do look at the reactive mind. That's the irrational, illogical, react without thinking about it, where I used to have a temper, for example. That kind of thing. Or the girl keeps choosing the wrong guys and she keeps choosing the same kind of guy. That kind of thing. That's the reactive side. So what auditing addresses is those reactions, those irrational reactions that you feel are irrational. Yeah?
And do you have any grounds on which you discount chemical imbalances in the brain and things like that? If a psychologist will say you are angry because of this chemistry, if you say, well, actually, it's not in your mind, it's in your Thetan. Well,
it is in the mind. It is in the mind. You want to say something?
Well, yeah. I don't think there's any argument that chemicals in the brain affect your mood and things like that. You've only got to have a couple of pints or a strong coffee or a shot of adrenaline or something else like that, right? The mind has an effect on the body has an effect on your mind, your moods, things like that. The thing that's in question and that hasn't really been proved to any degree is that the chemical imbalance is the cause of the problems, where actually it might just be a symptom of the problem. Now, if you can address the mind itself, if you can address the person, and just by education or something like that.
One second, it's not been proved as a cause, but correcting it makes the other symptoms go away. Does that not prove it as a cause?
Imagine you were locked in a cage with an angry tiger, and somebody, took a blood sample and said, wow, this guy's got loads of adrenaline. What we can do, and he's jumping around and he's pretty scared. What we can do is we can give him a drug to counteract that, and they can make a drug and get rid of the adrenaline and stuff like that, and you'll stop jumping around and you'll be a lot more quiet. But it hasn't handled the actual source of why you were upset in the first place. Whereas if you can handle the source of it and that imbalance balances out anyway, then, you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
I would say how much is it a metaphor? Do you state it as true, this Thetan mind body trinity, as it were?
Right. That's a fairly central principle on which a lot of Scientology is based. That's a principle on which a lot of it was developed. Now, you don't have to believe that in order to use Scientology to improve your study ability, to fix up your marriage, to heal your body to some degree and things like that. But it is you will understand it much better if you understand that principle.
I mean, what happened to Ron Hubbard? I don't know if you know, but he was a nuclear physicist. He was very scientific in his approach, and he was actually injured in the Second World War, shrapnel in his spine. Was told by the medical profession he'd never walk again. So he actually was, thought that was it in his life, and was put in a wheelchair basically. He actually got himself well again using the techniques of Dianetics and the principles that we're talking about at the moment to alleviate that, and actually got back on his ship. When he went back on his ship in his uniform, they thought it was an imposter because they said it was medically impossible to do what he did. Yeah, so that's how this all actually started.
Just on that point, I believe, I'm just trying to find it now, that evidence recently came to light that he wasn't actually injured. I don't know if you've heard about this, but...
no, I don't. He's not here to defend himself either.
To be honest, I've seen evidence in every which way. It doesn't make a lot of difference to me because what I've seen of it works.
I've heard Ron Hubbard talk about it, actually, so, yeah.
And also, on what authority is a nuclear physicist? Because I don't believe he had a degree from anywhere other than a small university it was in some state, and the university was eventually...
He studied at George Washington University in Washington.
I don't believe that's the case. I believe that's the case of what he stated during his life, but I saw a fair bit of evidence today to say that he had never studied at George Washington University.
Where did you get your evidence from?
It was a heavily referenced article on the internet. I can pass the references on to you if you want.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff out there that's actually just not true and false data, unfortunately. But you know, you're welcome to believe whatever. It's fine. Hello.
Can I just ask, are you in no way bothered by the sheer volume of this false data?
It bothers me to the point that it prevents people from finding the truth. It doesn't alter what I know about something because I've, studied it, been there, seen it, done it, used it, applied it, etc. So personally, it's fine for me. What it does bother me about is that other people then have the false data and believe that's true. If they're then willing to come in and find out for themselves, then obviously they can see for themselves what's true, rather than someone else's opinion. You can go and watch a film, and you could read about the film, and somebody can critique it and say it's a dreadful film, the worst film that you've ever seen. But you might go and enjoy it, So I think in all situations, if a person's willing to come in and find out for themselves, it's much better.
Sorry, I'd just like to clarify. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I was simply stating that as far as I could see the evidence, I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I get you. No, I understand.
I just wanted to clarify that I'm not.
Yes.
It could work perfectly fine. It could go on perfectly good psychological principle.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I ask how you would define true? Because you've spoken quite a lot about
What's true for you?
About a person finding the truth and these data being false. What is true?
What's true for me is I'm an immortal spiritual being. That's quite a big thing, isn't it? But that's true for me now, having done a lot of...
Not things that are true, but what does it mean for a thing to be true?
I think for it to be true, it has to be something you can use and it changes something for the better. So therefore something is true for you because you can change it, you can improve something.
Okay, because that's a very different definition of what is true to, I would expect, the majority of the
in
world
a physical
would
sense.
say.
Yeah.
I think it probably depends on the context you're talking. True means it's factual, is provable, is physical and touchable, perhaps, or something like that. What context, really?
So with your definition of true, then Santa Claus is true.
If you want it to be true for you, do you know right now it's true for myself.
Because you can use it to help people.
Well, yes, I suppose to that degree, you could, but that's...
Because it just seems, and this is going to sound very antagonistic, I don't mean it to, but it seems so far you've said, well, you can believe whatever you like, whatever you want is true, and we might teach you some stuff that you might be able to learn elsewhere.
Okay,
How is it different?
All right, so you can say, yeah, anything's true. Well, obviously, it has to be what we call the greatest good across the dynamics. Now, in Scientology, which Stuart probably got another video to show you, we look at 8 dynamics, 8 urges to survive. Now, obviously, it's whatever betters conditions, whatever makes something improve a situation, you do better, other people do better. So it's whatever, helps the person in that sense. And this helps you do that, basically. Yeah?
So even if it's false, you consider it to be true because it's useful?
No.
No, I think we're going off down a bit of a funny tangent.
As in, if something was unhelpful, you might consider it to be false, even if it was accurate about...
If it's not helpful...
No, I think what Debbie's saying is, I don't think there's any argument on what's true and what's false. Like, if something, is there, it's obvious, it's provable, it's true, right? There are some things that are somewhat subjective, though, to a person. One person might say that's a good film, another person might say that's a bad film. Which is true? So in that context, we start looking at, well, what's actually going to be useful, what's real, what works, and that sort of thing.
There's different degrees of artistic criticism, though. There's saying this was a well-made film. There's saying I enjoyed this film. Saying encompassing all of true and false doesn't seem to be...
I think it's what works. It's true for you if it works. In this sense.
On the subjective level.
Yes, on the subjective level.
So I'm just computing that through. Feel free
Sure,
to move
that's
on
right,
whilst I
okay.
think about it.
I read a little bit about study tech, which I think you use to